Wait, I have the actual tweet pulled up. This is the one with the ox, right? It says, an ox named Buster escaped from a livestock auction and is now leading a herd of feral goats through the Sonoran suburbs. Dude, 4 million likes.
Unwilling to negotiate. Buster has read more theory than the average city council member. He's not negotiating with people who think goats are a zoning issue.
But that's the thing, though. This starts with a broken gate at an auction facility. There's an actual policy failure here. We haven't funded county animal control in years. The local extension office is one guy with a net and a dream.
So your solution is more funding for the Department of Feral Goat Containment. Meanwhile, Buster's out there forming a parallel government. He's got the goats, he's got a territory, he's got a media narrative. That's more than most city managers have.
I'm saying this is what happens when you starve the administrative state. The gate shouldn't fail, the auction facility should have a containment plan. There should be an inspector whose job it is to say, hey, this gate doesn't close. But nobody wants to pay for that. So now you've got an ungulate warlord in the cul-de-sac.
The administrative state is not going to stop Buster. Buster is the logical conclusion of a society that treats animals as inventory. You create an economy based on moving huge, anxious herbivores through underfunded chutes, then act surprised when one of them seizes the means of trampling.
Okay, but I need to know if the goats are with him voluntarily. Are they his followers, his hostages, or is this like a Paul Giamatti in Private Life situation?
They're absolutely voluntary. The goats looked around at their options, fire season, suburban coyotes, a guy with a leaf blower, and said, we ride with Buster. No one joins a herd by accident. There's a social contract.
Fine, but eventually someone's going to have to get him into a trailer. And that person is going to be a county employee making $19 an hour. That's the part I keep coming back to. The hero of this story is going to be an underpaid animal control officer with a rope and a bad back.
And they'll tranquilize him, and the local news will do a segment called Buster's Last Stand. And then we'll all pretend the problem was the ox, and not the just-in-time livestock logistics that made the whole thing inevitable. Meanwhile, the goats will go back to being a next-door complaint.
I saw a guy on Blue Sky doing a thread about this. Something like, the ox is a perfect regulatory case study. He argued that if we'd fully funded the USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, Buster would be a taco by now.
That's your takeaway? That the problem is the inspector didn't have enough paper clips? Buster is the only thing in Arizona right now with a mandate from the masses. You don't beat that with better compliance software.
No, my takeaway is that we've let public infrastructure age out. It's the same thing as the USS Benfold losing power mid-deployment, which, by the way, is trending today. We don't maintain things, then we're shocked when an ox or a destroyer just stops listening.
The ox didn't stop listening, Marty. It started giving orders. There's a difference. The Benfold lost power because its maintenance contract went to the lowest bidder. Buster keeps power because he's not answerable to shareholders.
Do you think he's still out there right now? Like right now, while we're recording? He's just standing in a wash somewhere with a bunch of goats waiting for the next move?
If he's smart, he's already running for county supervisor. The goats are a built-in base. The goats are the most reliable voters since retirees, and he's got the outsider branding. You can't buy that.
I'd like to see the filing. Occupation, ox. Stance on property taxes, currently standing on a property.
He'd still poll better than most incumbents. The executive order Google trend from this morning says people are desperate for a strong leader. Buster's out there doing actual executive orders. He just headbutts a fence until it opens.
I do think there's a genuine governance conversation here. When a feral goat herd forms around an escaped ox, that's a signal that our enforcement capacity is so low that even the animals have given up on us. That should worry us.
I'm not worried about the animals. I'm worried about the moment Buster gets a pack, because the second some crypto guy hears alpha behavior, he's gonna fund him. Then the ox is on Joe Rogan explaining monetary policy.
Oh, God, don't put that into the universe. He'd get a TV show before either of us.
The Buster Hour, sponsored by every podcast ever. First guest, the Feral Goats. Second guest, a guy who used to work at the SEC but now sells freeze-dried meat. It's the same show.
Okay, but what if, and hear me out, what if this is a chance to pass meaningful animal welfare infrastructure? A bipartisan bill called the Buster Act. Emergency funding for livestock fencing, better tracking, and mandatory goat herd repatriation programs.
The Buster Act would get gutted in committee and renamed the Agricultural Mobility and Private Property Protection Act. Then the funding goes to a private contractor that builds the same broken gate. Wake up.
I can't. You know I can't. I still think there's a version where an inspector gets overtime and Buster gets a sanctuary placement. But yeah, probably not in this timeline.
The only sanctuary is the wash behind the target. Buster's already built it. We're just waiting for the rest of us to catch up.
Okay, so if Buster already built his own sanctuary behind the target, maybe the real problem is we're using the wrong metric. Forget wolf alpha. I think we need to talk about ox alpha. I found a working paper from an ag econ guy at Iowa State trying to model draft animals as a productivity instrument.
You don't need a working paper. An ox is definitionally more alpha than a wolf, because the wolf does performance. The ox does work. The wolf makes a lot of noise and maybe gets a deer. The ox plows the field that grows your lunch.
But in finance, alpha is excess return over a benchmark. It has nothing to do with actual output. So if you're going to call an ox alpha, you're changing the unit of account.
Good. The old unit was vibes and dominance. The new unit is tons of manure per acre and cart miles per season. An ox doesn't outperform the benchmark. It is the benchmark. The wolf has a podcast about mindset. The ox has a yoke. Tell me which one is more alpha.
I mean, I tried to build a dashboard, like kilowatt hours of draft power per acre, feed conversion efficiency, downtime due to weather. And there's a real case for oxen as a hedge against diesel prices and input volatility.
It's the only hedge that also produces fertilizer. Name a derivative that shits. I'll wait.
But the basis risk is real. Oxen get sick, they have bad days. You can't algorithmically rebalance a team of oxen without causing a stampede. That makes it a terrible liquid asset.
The illiquidity is the feature. It means the asset has to do the work. The second you can trade an ox future, some guy in Chicago will own the harvest without ever smelling it. Then the ox gets sad.
Okay, but serious policy point. If ox alpha is real, it's a public good. It reduces emissions, builds soil, can't be offshored. Maybe the USDA should subsidize ox teams instead of corn syrup.
Now you sound like a proper agrarian mutualist. But the USDA would require the ox to have a microchip, a EULA, and a wellness portal. This ox has completed mindfulness training and is certified carbon neutral.
You'd want some oversight, though. Otherwise, people overwork the animals to juice their ox alpha score, and the welfare metrics crash. That's just extractive finance with extra steps.
Ah, yes. ESG for livestock. The ox gets a leather chair and a fiduciary. Meanwhile, the wolf sells alpha mindset courses to the farmer who still has to muck the stall.
I looked at the discount rate. Oxen live around 15 years. Work maybe 12. At 6%, the net present value of a good ox is roughly $4,800. That's not nothing.
And the net present value of a wolf is negative, because it eats your dog and your share price. But yes, Build me an ox bond. I want the coupon paid in hay.
The collateral problem kills the bond market, though. The ox is alive, so it can die, and banks hate that. You'd need an insurance wrapper and a death put, which basically makes the ox a financial zombie.
Banks also die. They did in 2008. At least the ox died doing something useful. The bank died doing a PowerPoint.
I can't tell if you're doing a bit or rewriting modern portfolio theory.
I'm doing the only honest thing. Making finance explain itself to a cow.
You know, the Navy destroyer lost power again. Maybe instead of buying another destroyer, they should just get a team of oxen. Fewer software updates.
But then Lockheed can't bill the Pentagon for Ox Alpha Plus with cloud-enabled hoof tracking. They'd put a $40 million consulting contract on Buster, and Buster would unionize and refuse the leash.
Buster would win. He already built the wash. He has more real infrastructure than most SPACs.
Buster is in the 1% of true Ox Alpha. The rest of us are just wolves with LinkedIn.
All right, so define Ox Alpha for the listener. I need a clean one for the syllabus.
Ox Alpha is real work produced per unit of drama, measured in acres plowed, tons hauled, and soil improved, divided by the number of wolves involved.
And if the number of wolves involved is 0?
Then you've achieved peak Ox. You have a farm and no content strategy.
So, no ETF.
No ETF. Just a yoke, a field, and maybe Buster behind the target.
Okay, but you know what? After your whole no ETF, yoke and Buster manifesto, I started thinking about actual uncorrelated assets. And this morning, my feed had 2 trending searches: USS Benfold power loss and executive order. Meanwhile, I helped a friend move a couch, and it was the most economically legible thing I did all week.
The couch is the only asset that appreciated. I've been saying this. The friends we made along the way line is not a joke. It's the only metric that doesn't get revised by the Bureau of Existential Dread.
Right, but people treat it like a Hallmark card. There's actual social capital research, Putnam, the bowling alone stuff, where communities with higher informal reciprocity have better health outcomes, lower crime, faster disaster recovery. It's like a real economic factor.
Yeah, but the problem is you can't securitize helping someone move a couch. There's no ETF for I trust my neighbor enough to leave him a spare key. So the market just pretends it's 0. And then the warship can't keep the lights on, and everyone's Googling executive order like that's a plan.
I mean, look, I'm a data guy. I want to say social capital is measurable. Number of people you could call at 2 a.m., frequency of shared meals, number of favors exchanged in the last 30 days. But the tracking is terrible. The government doesn't put lone wolf with a truck and a strong back in the CPI basket.
Because it doesn't show up on a Bloomberg terminal. But you know what does? The USS Benfold. A 500-foot Navy destroyer that lost power. Like, literally couldn't keep the lights on. That's the DoD's version of having 2,000 LinkedIn connections and nobody to pick you up from the airport.
Okay, that's good. The military-industrial complex is the guy who has a Rolodex but no friends. And the executive order thing? It's the national mood of someone better fix this by fiat because we've starved all the local stuff that works.
Right. You can't executive order a neighbor to watch your cat. You can't pass a continuing resolution that makes someone bring you soup when you're sick. So you get this weird inversion. All the macro stuff is on fire, and the only real hedge is the friend with a pickup truck.
It's an economic stability argument. If I lose my job, the first thing that keeps me from falling into destitution is not unemployment insurance. It's crashing on my friend's couch for a month. That's a real insurance policy with no premium. The premium was helping them move that same couch in 2019.
It's also deeply unliberated from market logic. My buddy doesn't keep a ledger. He doesn't say, that'll be 3 couch moves, interest compounded at the prevailing rate of pizza and beer. He just shows up, which is why economists can't model it. It's outside the price system.
Well, some economists try. There's a branch of social capital literature, Woolcock, the World Bank even, that treats trust as a sort of public good. The problem is, when you try to optimize it, you kill it. It's like laughter. The moment you measure it for ROI, it evaporates.
Exactly. The friends made along the way, as an asset class, has negative management fees. The more you plan it, the worse it performs. It only compounds if you ignore it, which is why nobody in Davos wants to hear about it. They can't extract rent from something they can't track.
So you've got the USS Benfold power loss trending. And I think it's because people are trying to find a symbol for something they feel in their gut. The state can't maintain its own stuff, but it can produce infinite executive orders. It's like the national household is all emergency proclamations and no working refrigerator.
And the working refrigerator is your friend who will help you move a couch. That's the whole segment. We should just rename the show The Couch Index. It's a better leading indicator than consumer confidence.
I'm serious, though. There's a study. I want to say it was a 2018 paper on social capital and economic resilience that found counties with high rates of civic engagement recovered from the 2008 recession like 2 years faster than places that were economically identical but didn't have people going to potlucks or whatever. It wasn't policy. It was weak ties.
Weak ties are the real infrastructure, and we let them degrade for decades. Bowling leagues collapse, church attendance drops, unions get dismantled, the Elks Club gets replaced by an algorithm that shows you a guy holding a fish. Then we act surprised when everyone's just refreshing the executive order feed.
Wait, but this is where I get genuinely optimistic. You can rebuild the stuff. It doesn't require a constitutional amendment. You just host a potluck. You help someone move. You give your neighbor a spare key. The transaction cost is minimal and the compounding is absurd. But it doesn't scale, and that drives policymakers insane.
It also doesn't produce share buybacks, so the system treats it as worthless. That's why the only social capital we're allowed to discuss is networking, which is just friendship with a CRM attached. It strips the actual value out and leaves you with the theater.
Yeah, networking is to friendship what an executive order is to governance. It's a high-frequency, low-trust simulacrum. You leave with 30 contacts and no one you'd help move a couch.
And the irony is, the friends we made along the way is the one asset that compounds in a crisis. Warships lose power, executive orders get signed and then stuck in court, but my friend Mike is still going to help me move a couch on Saturday. And I'd do it for him. That's the entire portfolio.
So maybe the metric of value isn't GDP. It's couch-moving reciprocity index. If your index is high, you're rich. If you have a 401k but no one to call when your car breaks down, you're broke. We just don't print that on a quarterly statement.
I want to see the Federal Reserve start releasing that. The median American has 2.3 couch-moving friendships, down 0.4 from last year. That would tell me more about the country than the Beige Book.
The Beige Book literally just says conditions were flat. And then everyone's surprised when the USS Benfold can't power a toaster. Meanwhile, the real economic data was always whether you still get invited to the block party.
And the thing is, I don't even think it's a left-right issue. This is beyond markets and regulation. You can't subsidize it, you can't nationalize it, you can't deregulate it into existence. It's like the dark matter of the economy. It holds everything together, but you can't point a satellite at it.
Right. It's the thing that keeps society legible when the state has a bad quarter, which lately is every quarter.
So if we're doing a segment on the economics of friendship, the thesis is the most undervalued asset in America is a friend with a truck and no desire to turn it into a brand.
Exactly. And the most overvalued is the executive order. It's a press release with a signature block. It can't help you move a couch. It can't even keep the lights on a destroyer.
So the real doomsday preppers are just people with a strong bench of friends. They don't need a bunker. They need a group chat with 4 people who show up.
And that's the part that gives me some hope, because no one can take that away. Not a bad election, not a market crash, not a supply chain issue. The worst they can do is make you too tired to call someone back.
Yeah, and attrition is real. The algorithm wants you to think friendship is a feed, not a favor. But every couch you don't help move is a small withdrawal. Your social capital quietly compounds negatively.
So maybe we should start measuring it ourselves, not as a government thing, as a personal thing. Just ask, this week, how many people could you call who would genuinely say yes before knowing the ask?
That's the real consumer sentiment. If that number is above 3, you're outperforming the index. If it's 0, it doesn't matter what the NASDAQ does.
And if the answer is 3, and one of them is Buster behind the target, well, you're still doing better than a Navy destroyer.
See, this is why we don't need an ETF. Buster behind the target has been on the board for years. He'll help you move a couch. No executive order required.
That's the whole economy, dude. Buster behind the target is the friend we made along the way. And he's the only thing holding the lights on.